improvements that we made, and one super handy thing that the previous owners had done, and that is this sink system in the head. The intent of this channel is, if you're handy and you don't have unlimited funds, or our intention is to show you how to take something that could be very inexpensive because it needs some work, or something that is actually on the verge of being scrapped or discarded, and using that opportunity to get you out there and enjoy it. Folks, one of the things that's on the list to do this year is we've never changed any of the water supply hoses from the tank. The Catalina 25 has, I believe it's a 25-gallon tank under the starboard settee, and I've undone all the fittings, and it really just kind of wedges itself in there. See that the bottom is tapered to contour to the hull, so when you fill it with water, it wedges itself down in there. While it's out, I'm the kind of guy that likes, whenever you open any of the bilges or any of the compartments, I like to see nice shiny paint. And I'm going to clean this up real good, give it a quick sand, and we're going to paint it. So one of the things that I like about nice bright compartments is the lighting in a sailboat isn't necessarily the best, so you're probably going to have a headlamp on or a flashlight to try to find stuff, and a little bit of light goes a long way when your compartments are nice and bright. So here's a little tiny bulkhead that actually has no fiberglass on it and no paint, so just to protect that a little longer, it's tabbed in from the factory along the hull, and this vertical settee riser here, this is where we store the bleach, to put a cap full in every time we fill up, in case you get some bad water from a marina or a public dock or something where you fill your tank. So we're gonna paint the inside of this. It's one of the ones that I haven't done yet. It's the first time the water tank has been out. Changing all the fittings and all of the water lines in the boat for this season. So we'll show you the finished product. Hey folks, we're in the boat today and we are continuing with our springtime launch preparation. There's a couple of things I wanted to show you here. Improvements that we made, and one super handy thing that the previous owners had done, and that is this Galley sink system in the head. Normally these boats have the porta potty on the port side, and on the starboard side they would have the sink, the head sink over here. You can see that this one is a full-size hanging locker with a clothes rod, and we have the full depth all the way to the bottom. One thing I want to show you real quick is you can see that the chain plates come through the cabin top here, and there's 4 large bolts that hold it to the bulkhead. If these leak, you're going to see some stains generating, following this down, and you'll see some bleaching and some staining of your bulkheads. When I looked at this boat, there was no indication that it had any leaks from the deck fittings into the boat, and I keep after it by resealing these things every other season, and obviously we keep an eye on it. But here's where you really want to pay attention. Down inside this locker, it does have the potential to collect some water. If you did had a leak in a deck fitting, or the jib sheet track or something to that effect, the stanchions where they bolt in, the shroud plates and those things, you could get some leakage that would eventually gather in this hanging locker. And here is the bottom fasteners. The bulkhead ends here, and then it is bolted to a fiberglass reinforced section that's part of the inner liner of the hull. And really, this is where you want to look for damage. If you had water damage here over a period of years, this portion of the bulkhead would be compromised, and it would be very soft. You would see the wood starting to peel off and delaminate. So this is a place that you really want to look. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out while I had the hanging locker empty. But let's get back to this really cool thing that somebody did for the head sink. This gentleman built this shelf and put in a small round sink that, as far as size, it's completely sufficient for this size boat. And what you do here, really, what do you do here? You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, that kind of thing. And so it's perfectly sufficient. But you can see that he's put these slide rails in, and they're fastened to the bulkhead. You can see that the shelf for the sink rides on these tracks on both sides. And we actually have some fittings for the drain that is a right angle drain to provide clearance between this little storage compartment under the sink, and we've got an L bracket, an elbow for the freshwater supply to the sink faucet, which is a hand pump. So watch what happens here. So normally the porta potty is here. We use a porta potty. It's perfectly sufficient. I should point out that it's only my wife and I on this boat. We don't really have, our kids are older. They're doing their own thing. And when we're out sailing, we have no other guests spending the night. So the porta potty is sufficient for a lot of reasons. First of all, I like the fact that I can take it out, throw it in the dinghy, go to the pump out stations in the public marinas, and bring it back, and in the matter of a few minutes we're all set, we're all good. We don't have to wait for a pump out boat, those kinds of things. So that's good and handy. We do have these bungee cords here to actually hold, as a safety precaution, hold the porta potty in position. It has these brackets that snap into the porta potty to hold it. But going over a seaway that's a little rough, sometimes they work their way out. Trust me, we found out the hard way. We were in a seaway, picked a gust, and the boat heeled over. The porta potty came out of its compartment and actually broke the lid off in the seat and all that sort of stuff. So the bungee cord is here to prevent that from ever happening again. So this would come out, you know, if you need to use the porta potty, it pulls out of the way. You got plenty of full access to the porta potty. And then when you're ready to utilize the sink, it slides all the way forward. And he actually had a mirror that folds with the sink. You can see how that works. And he even put a safety catch in the way back, so this would get stored in a seaway, a rough seaway. It wouldn't keep sliding back and forth and damage anything. So it slides all the way out. You have full usage of the hand pump, full reach. You know, you're right here. It's convenient. When you're washing up, you know, you're not reaching way to the back. And all of this plumbing really flexes. It's got plenty of service loops in the plumbing. So when you slide it back and forth, it's really not an issue. Again, it's all the way out now. You can see that it clears the storage compartment retainer there, and then when I push it back, all of the plumbing just kind of goes in where the natural curve of the service loop of the hoses position it. So it's really, really nice. If you're handy with woodwork and you can engineer this thing yourselves, I highly recommend it because it completely frees up the hanging locker on the other side. Everything is on this side of the boat, and it works really well. The drain for the sink, here's the through hole here, and it's got one of the nylon through hole fittings. I took the factory through hole out and put in a bronze through hole to just kind of as a margin of safety, so if this thing gets knocked around and snaps off, it would certainly happen quicker with a plastic through hole than a bronze through hole. And the other thing we have hanging up here, it's always right here, is if that did snap off, we have the through hole plug to knock in there just in case of an emergency. So just a quick, this is probably one of the best things that we like about this boat in terms of improvements that have been made. This is something we did not do. This is something that a previous owner did, and I'm so thankful that they did, because it really makes this small boat have some functionality, opens up some more storage opportunities. We have full access to this storage compartment back here. This is where this, toilet paper go, the chemicals for the toilet, and even some first aid items. and some of the linens, washcloths and small hand towels and things like that. So that's the head portion of this video. The only additional thing I'm going to put in is we added this at the beginning of last season. It's just a small baby whale foot pump. It's perfectly out of the way. The porta potty ends here, so we have full access to this, and it's just a simple plumbing connection. Now the really neat thing about this is the functionality of the hand pump is still maintained, where you can pump by hand, and when you use the foot pump, regardless of the position of the hand pump, the foot pump comes out. So the nice thing about this is, before we had that in, when you're washing your hands, you're obviously washing with one hand, pumping with the other. We tend to spill a lot of water around here doing that, as your hands are soaked. And we found, some people say, oh, if you got foot pumps or whatever, you use more water. We've actually found that we use less water because it's a more efficient washing operation, if you will, when you can wash both hands at the same time with the foot pump. So one of the reasons why I started here for the spring launch preparation and the improvements we're making is we like that so much that we are putting another baby whale pump right here in the galley for the galley sink. Again, if you're washing up in here, you have one hand operating the pump. Even if you're washing and rinsing dishes, you got to hold it with one hand and pump with the other. So this will give us the same functionality back there. I'm going to put some through fittings here, mount the small pump here. It's out of the way, and we'll just have a nice system here. So eventually, this new pump, you can see how small they are. They're just going to go in this corner. These fittings are actually going to go through that little bulkhead. The clamps will be on the other side. So this will actually even take up less space. It's in the corner, so you'll be less reluctant to trip over it or stub your toe on it. And we still have full access to the drawers that come in and out of here, and the storage compartment here. I'll go into more detail of this. We put some shelving in here. Our other through hull is right here. You can see everything's double clamped. So, and this shelf pulls out of the way for that purpose, to service that kind of thing. And that's it for that. We did put some spray foam insulation around the ice box, and you can see that in here as well. So that was kind of a project, a little bit messy, but we definitely increased the ability for our ice to last longer. So another thing we're working on here is the this is the compartment that the Force 10 stove and oven go in, and I'm making a stainless steel liner that's going to go in. I've got it marked for the fitting for the this is a compressed natural gas stove, so I got to make a hole for the line to pass through, and then I got to lay out 4 holes that the stove actually bolts to. So this is brushed stainless steel. This is just a protective coating, so when I pull this off, even though the stove will be covering it up, it is stainless steel. It'll be less susceptible to corrosion. Before I put the oven back in, I'm going to put some teak oil on this section, because this is all covered with the oven. So while it's out, you can see this is a little dry. There's a dramatic difference in the color and texture of the wood. So we're going to preserve this with some teak oil, do the inside of this while the oven is out. And I've got the Force 10 oven here, and I'm working on the fasteners and things, making sure they're all ready to go in. So a lot of projects going on. We're way behind. It's June 2nd. I got a little less than 2 weeks before I'd like to splash this thing. Got the water system to do. Got some improvements in that system by adding the foot pump. I'm finishing up the oven compartment here. We're wiping down the bulkheads and getting ready to do some teak oil. I've got the first coat of the paint in the storage compartment for the water tank. I've also done the quarter berth compartment Again, it's so much nicer having that bright white. First of all, it looks clean and well maintained. The second thing is it's usually dark in there when you're looking for something. If you have a headlamp on or a flashlight, the light really bounces off of that nice clean white surface. So I got one coat on there. I want to do a second coat, and I've done that little bulkhead I talked about the other day. That's got its one coat. You can see the wood is really sucking up the paint, so second coat will preserve this even longer. I'm looking to just prolong the life of this untreated bulkhead. It's high enough out of the bilge where you'd really have to have a severe problem to get water up this high. So, but I don't want to take that risk. As soon as this gets saturated and acts like a sponge and wicks all that water in it, especially salt water, it's extremely difficult to dry that out. So I'm just trying to minimize those opportunities for some wood rot. So we're getting there. We got a lot of things going on all at once, and that's just the way it is. Springtime preparation, and we got a long list of things to do, and we're just trying to pick away and make progress on all of them as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So this is where our galley foot pump is going. I had to cut a big oval in here. I used a step drill to get in there. One of these things. I used the step drill to make the holes larger, and I really had to make the holes big enough so the part of the pump goes into the bulkhead here. So when I go to the inside, I have plenty of room for the hoses to push on and for the clamps to come on, because the bulkhead is 3/8 of an inch thick here between the plywood and the fiberglass laminate. So I have plenty of room for the hose to go on, plenty of room for the clamp. This is in this corner, so it's out of the way. The only thing I had to do was rotate this hose clamp. It used to be facing forward, and I rotated the hose clamp around, so if you do maintenance on it, I can still access it with a screwdriver in this direction. So looking forward to getting that functionality hooked up. So our galley sink is now foot operated and hand operated. So I'll show you that when it's all installed and hooked up. Well folks, we got the foot pump working in the galley. You can see where it goes. The cabinetry goes right here. I have it open still so I can get at the plumbing. This is the supply from the tank. This goes up to the sink. It's teed in, so this supplies the head sink. So the foot pent's right in this corner. If you're at a seaway and you need water, you can brace yourself against the galley, and I can operate the foot pump and get it out of this whale pump here, and it still works with a hand pump. And we have the same situation back here. Again, the foot pump is down low, the hand pump is up high. See if I can get some daylight here. There's the hand pump operation. My hand's off the thing, I'm on the foot pump, and I can get the foot pump operation. So highly recommend doing that so you can wash your hands free basically, and this works the best for us. Hope that was helpful. So folks, this is the water tank back in position. It's all nice and shiny in there. The bleach is back in the storage compartment. This is a homemade deck fill out of PEX tubing. I have the domestic water hose hook up here, the valve to shut it off, and this just goes in the deck fill. I keep that stored here under the tank, in the tank, so I know where it is. And I've got every hose on the system, and every fitting is brand new now. Every clamp is brand new, so it should be clean and also reliable now.